Hey y'all, let's chat while I make these kids some supper. Here's a story time where I think my kid's dad tried to sell my firstborn, Moon Pie, when she was only a year old. And y'all, if I overanalyze and read way too much into this, if I've been watching too many true crime documentaries, let me know. Because at the time, I felt like my ex was gaslighting me into thinking I was just crazy, but I'm telling you, all my alarms were going off. So the entire time I was with my ex, he could not keep a job to save his life. So at this particular point in time, I was working at a club, and we closed at 2 a.m. We'd clean up and leave. It'd be about 2:30, 3 a.m. And my ex would have to come get me. He would complain about it all the time, like he's just so busy, like he had such a jam-packed schedule to deal with, being unemployed and everything. So he'd always complain about having to get up out of bed at 2:30 a.m. to come get me. And at the time, he was driving a truck that I paid for, and it was a stick shift that I didn't know how to drive. One day he came and got me, and my little Moon Pie was asleep in her little car seat, and he told me that he had taken her to a friend's girl's house. So let's call his friend John, and we'll call his girlfriend Layla. So he said he had taken Moon Pie over there while he was hanging out with John, and Layla was playing with Moon Pie. And she just thought Moon Pie was so precious. She was the cutest little baby, and I'll show you a picture. My babies were so cute when they were little. They look like little baby dolls. So the next day, he was planning to take Moon Pie back over to Layla and John's house. Layla had agreed to babysit Moon Pie. I wanted to meet them myself because Moon Pie was my whole world, and Kyle had a habit of just dropping my child off for other people to watch just so he could go run the streets and cheat on me and do whatever. So we went over there, and they didn't actually live in a house. It looked like it was like an extended stay motel, like one story. Not the best neighborhood, but I wasn't about to judge them. I had grown up in poverty myself. That didn't set off any red flags with me. Sorry y'all, the story is longer than I expected, so follow for part 2. Hey y'all, let's chat while I make these kids some supper. Okay, so this is part 2 of the story time. Did my kid's dad try to sell my child? We are at the part where we had just got to the motel. So John was outside, he was talking to Kyle, and before I went into the motel room with Moon Pie, John told me that Layla had recently had a miscarriage, so don't bring it up. And I was like, okay, I would never bring up something like that. But anyway, I went in there. Layla was kind of just relaxed on the bed. And there was maybe, I want to say like a 2 or 3 year old boy who was sitting there playing on the floor with some toys. At the time, I thought that was her son, but apparently it wasn't. I didn't find that out until later. After that day, I never saw that kid again. But yeah, I sat down and I started talking to Layla. And honestly, looking at her, she seemed depressed. She looked very tired. She looked very sad. And I was just talking to her, trying to, be friends. And she was telling me how much she just loved Moon Pie. She was so precious and she loved her so much. She was hoping her daughter, when she's born, that she would look half as cute as Moon Pie. And I didn't say anything. She said, "Oh, I'm actually 6 months pregnant. I'm just underweight." And just looking, I could clearly see her stomach. Follow for part 3. Hey y'all, let's chat while I make these kids some supper. Okay, so this is part 3 of the story time. Did my kid's dad try to sell my child? So we're at the part where she had just told me that she was 6 months pregnant, but she was underweight. Just looking, I could clearly see her stomach, and it wasn't a flat stomach, like maybe she was recently pregnant. I don't know. She was definitely not close to 6 months pregnant. But I didn't say anything. I just felt like that wasn't none of my business. And just a side note, looking around this motel room, you can tell that it's lived in. They had like a hot plate set up. They had groceries on a shelf. They had a closet full of clothes and on and on. So it looked like they had been staying there for a while. So we talked a little bit more, and then I went to work. Now, while I was at work, I did get this bad feeling. It was kind of like a sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, like anxiety, like a nagging chest pain. Sometimes I get these bad feelings and it never leads to anything good. Just to calm myself, I tried to reach out to Kyle. I had a little flip phone at the time, and I called him and texted him, and of course he did not answer me. That was pretty normal for him. He was rampantly cheating on me, so of course he couldn't pick up the phone when he was with his little lady friend. But that's a whole nother story time. I worked my shift. It's like a 10-11 hour shift depending on what time I get out of there. Kyle comes and gets me at 2:30. I get in the car and I see that Moon Pie is not in her car seat. I was immediately stressed out. Kyle was not a good partner, and the only thing that brought me happiness in my life at that time was my Moon Pie. So I'm like, where's my baby? He said, oh, she's staying the night at John and Layla's house. And I was like, no, she's not. I said, let's go get my baby. And he argued me down over and over and over, saying, no, it's too late at night. We shouldn't be having her out this late at night. She's going to stay the night over there. And I just thought he was very weirdly adamant about it, because this is an everyday thing. You know, I get off at 2:30 in the morning. Usually when I get in the car, Moon Pie is wide awake. She's ready for me to come home. There are times when other people give me rides home, and when I get in the door, she is awake waiting for me with a big smile wanting to play. So I just kept stressing out. I said, no, we need to go get my baby. We need to go get my baby. And he just literally all the way home, he would not take me to go get my baby. I started crying. I was sobbing. I'm like, what do you mean you're not going to get my baby? I said we're going to get my baby now. Follow for part 4. Hey y'all, let's chat while I make myself a little breakfast. Okay, so this is part 4 of the story time. Did my kid's dad try to sell my child? So we're at the part where I was crying in the car, pleading with Kyle to please take me to pick up Moon Pie. I don't really know why I was so intensely upset at that time. All I remember is feeling panic. I literally thought I was never going to see my baby again. Maybe I was overreacting. I don't know. I had literally never been a single night without my baby. She was only a year old. All I could think was, I have to go get my baby. I was begging him, crying. This bastard took me all the way home. We lived kind of out in the country at that point. We got out the car. We argued all night. He was like, we will go get her in the morning. Oh my God, calm down. And I said, no, please, Kyle, take me to go get my baby. Something is wrong. Like, I feel it in my heart. Something is wrong. I've got to go get my baby. And he would not listen to me. This man literally just went to bed and ignored me crying all night. So I get up in the morning, as in a few hours later, because it was already super late. My eyes are all swollen because I have just been nonstop crying. I haven't got hardly any sleep. So I wake him up and he just keeps making every excuse in the book. He's like, no, just let me sleep a little while longer. I'm so tired. I've been doing all this running all day. What running you been doing with your unemployed ass? Get up. And time kept going by and it was the afternoon. I think what he was doing, he was trying to stall and just take me to work when it was time for me to go to work. But he didn't realize that was my off day. We was going to go get my baby. Follow for part 5. Hey y'all, let's chat while I make these kids some supper. Okay, so this is part 5 of the story time. Did my kid's dad try to sell my child? We were at the part when Kyle was trying to wait me out and just drop me off at work. He started getting up, getting dressed to take me to work. I said, no, you're taking me to go get my baby. And he was like, well, you got to be at work. We're not going to have time to go across town. I said, no, I'm off today. Take me to get my baby. And then he starts making other excuses. He's like, I've got to do this other thing. I said, Kyle, I'm about to pick up the phone and call the police if you do not take me to get my baby. He was just acting shady as hell. But when I had mentioned calling the cops, he was like, fine, Tina. And he was just screaming at me. And I'm like, what is the big fucking deal? Why are you literally angry that I want to go get my child? So we get in the car and he doesn't say anything. And we're driving. And we're not going to the motel that they were staying at, and their motel room looked really lived in. I said, where are we going? He said, we're going to go to John's uncle's house or something like that. And I was like, what? Why? And he said, they moved over there. What do you mean they moved? Literally, they were staying in a motel for the longest. Very well lived in room. And all of a sudden, the day that they keep my baby, they just up and move to his uncle's house. What? So my alarm bells are going off. My inner alarms are going crazy. I'm like, what is happening here? We finally get over there. We pull up in the driveway of this house, this brick house, which is in a nicer neighborhood. And he has me wait in the car. He goes inside and I'm waiting in the car for the longest. I'm waiting. Finally, I get tired of waiting. I go up to the porch and I knock on the door and finally they come to the door and all three of them come out with my baby and I'm immediately snatch my baby and I'm holding her and I was like, oh, hey, Moon Pie. oh my gosh, I miss you so much. I just felt good because it looked like she was so happy to see me. And at that point, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna ever be able to put my baby down. I was so happy. But the atmosphere of these other three folks was super sketch. That's all I can describe it as. I'm holding my baby, and the three of them, all three, are lecturing me, saying that I don't need to be picking up the baby at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning anymore. That's not good for her. She needs her sleep. She's a baby. Like, they're literally acting like I'm abusing her for wanting to come get my baby at 2:30 in the morning. Well, you knew what time I got off, so why would you even offer to babysit my child if you're not okay with the pickup time? And all of this could have been avoided if Kyle would just watch his child. Like, literally, it's your child. It's not babysitting. It's you being with your child. But they were all just leering at me and just acting like I was the worst mother in the world. And finally, we get back in the car. I strap her in her car seat and we get into the car. And Kyle just kept saying, he was like, maybe it's better if they just keep her overnight some nights. Because, you know, usually you'll work 4 or 5 nights in a row and they can just keep her during that time. And we can get her on your off days. And I'm just looking at him like, have you lost your mind? Are you serious right now? Follow for part 6. Hey y'all, let's chat while I make these kids some supper. Okay, so this is part 6 of the story time. Did my kid's dad try to sell my child? We were at the part where Kyle seriously told me to leave my child with these people through the week and only pick her up on my days off. I told him, I said, if you bring my child back to these people ever again, we're done. I said, because this, whatever this was, something's going on. Like they were trying to keep Moon Pie. And you sounded completely okay with the situation. And the way you talking right now just proves my assumptions. And he's just like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I just felt just the whole situation was crazy. And he just sat there and just gaslit me. Said that I was just psychotic. And I was just making up stories in my head. And I watched too much TV and da-da-da-da. What do y'all think happened? And no, as far as I know, he never brought them back over there again. I warned him that I was going to call the police on him, everybody, and their mama. And he was not going to chance that because at the time, he was on drugs. He was dealing drugs. He was just bad news. Eventually, I was able to get away from him right after I found out I was pregnant with Sunny. So what do y'all think? Do y'all think I was just being crazy? I mean, half of my reasoning to think that they were doing something shady was just the bad feelings I was getting. But there's a lot of times where something would go wrong and I would get bad feelings. So I don't know. I don't know at this point. I just wanted to share it with y'all. I haven't really shared this with other people, but I had just been thinking about it lately and I just wanted to hear other people's opinions of it. And please, please, please do not give me hate comments talking about why was I with this dangerous guy. You have to realize when you are a first-time mom, your first serious relationship, everything just happens so fast. When you're coming from poverty into poverty, you're going from the frying pan into the fire. From day one of that relationship, I was always the breadwinner. To this day, I have been the breadwinner. And if I didn't work, no one would eat. And he was the one that had to take care of Moon Pie. In hindsight, I would have made a lot of different decisions. But when you're in that situation and you feel stuck, there's a lot of stuff that you don't want to do that you end up having to do. So, I don't know. Let me know what y'all think of the situation. Am I crazy? Would you have reacted the same way or different? And FYI, I never saw John and Layla again. That's one wild story time for you. Follow for more.